HQ. That's Jacqueline Augustino. I'm Tommy Tran. We have a lot to get to in terms of the NBA. The regular season is over. Thankfully, we don't have to watch Pistons or Wizards basketball anymore, JD. And although we're not in the playoffs just yet, we do have the play-in tournament still TBD.
Right. You know, I kind of resonated when you said we don't have to watch the Pistons or the Wizards anymore, because growing up watching the Orlando Magic, they were typically in that conversation, Tommy.
But
hey,
a good year for them this time around.
Not this go-around. We got the 5 seed, baby. Yes, I said we. All right, let's go to the play-in tournament, because especially in the West, it was a tight race, not only at the top, but for the play-in spots as well. That 7 through 10 was tight. But Tuesday, Wednesday, that is when we were going to see those play-in games. We got the Lakers and the Pelicans, a little rematch from what we saw over the weekend, the Warriors and the Kings. And then on Wednesday, that's when the East gets things started, and it's a marquee matchup on deck with the Miami Heat and the Sixers, and then the Hawks and the Bulls. Maybe not as much of a marquee matchup, depending on who you ask, a.k.a. Brad Botkin. And let's bring in our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, to discuss the play-in, starting with the West. Bill, we're going to talk about that 7-8 matchup with the Lakers and the Pelicans. And, of course, this is a Lakers team that has LeBron James. Even though he is 39 years old, he's still playing like a top 15 player in the association. They made a deep run last season as a play-in team. Just beat the Pelicans by double digits yesterday. Are you expecting maybe some fight, a little bit of a bounce back from this Pelicans team, or who are you giving the edge here?
All right, let me preface this with, and this will apply to every conversation we have about the play-in, including Brad Botkin, the one that you didn't want to talk about the other day. All right, it's one game. Anything can happen in a single game. But I love the Lakers in this game, presuming that they actually want to win this game, because whoever wins this game has a date with the Denver Nuggets, and whoever gets to dance with the Nuggets probably gets to sit down and go home early. But for this game, I think the Lakers have a huge advantage. And I think we saw that in that last game yesterday. That really felt like a playoff game that kept the Pelicans out of the playoffs, in large part because playoff experience matters. And these things, the way that these games feel when you get to the postseason, it's a different reality for a lot of reasons than it is in the regular season. And LeBron James, obviously, Anthony Davis have been there. They've done that. LeBron's won 4 rings. Anthony Davis has the one with the Lakers during the COVID season. And this is a really talented Pelicans team that are really, really deep and really interesting, but they don't have playoff experience. Zion doesn't have playoff experience. And I think despite the fact the game is going to be in New Orleans, I think this is a huge advantage for the Lakers. And all else being equal, barring some kind of remarkable shooting night from New Orleans or the other statistical anomalies that can just happen in a single game, I think the Lakers are big favorites for me.
Lakers 2-0 all-time in the play-in. And as you alluded to, Bill, the winner gets the number 2 seed in Denver in the first round. Maybe we see a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals matchup. Which team matches up better with Denver? Is it LA? Is it New Orleans? Or, I mean, does it even matter? Because we're talking about the Joker and Denver trying to go back-to-back.
Yeah, I don't think anybody matches up well against the Nuggets. There's not an answer. I mean, last year's Lakers team made it to the conference finals, went on that great run. We know and we've seen, we saw it yesterday. LeBron James can elevate. You said it. He can go to top 5 player in the NBA. And even last year, they got dominated by Denver. There is not a good matchup that you can have if you're playing the Denver Nuggets. I actually think they're the best team in the NBA. I like them even better than the Boston Celtics, who are obviously statistically remarkable, not just this year, but historically. So the answer I'd probably give you is the Los Angeles Lakers, because you do have some difficulties in dealing with Anthony Davis and the things LeBron can do. And D'Angelo Russell's been really good this year, and Austin Reeves has been great. And this is a Lakers team whose defense has improved drastically over the course of the last 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. But I don't think it matters, because the team that matches up with them better got dominated last year by them in the conference finals, because the Nuggets are that good.
Yeah, they're that good, and their big guy is sitting there on his phone watching his horses when he's not out there on the court, which is just wild to think about. Let's talk about the 9-10 matchup in the West. We have the Kings and the Warriors. It's a Warriors team playing better as of late, but how do you see these two teams matching up? And the Warriors, can they get to a best-of-7 series with OKC? And if they do, is OKC in trouble?
Yes, and I think yes. Now again, it's not just a coin flip; it's 2 coin flips, as you talked about. They've got to win this game against the Kings, and they got to win the loser against the loser of Pelicans, Lakers, and then you're right. If they do both those things and they're on the road for both those games, they got a chance. Here's why I like them against the Kings, though. There's a lot of reasons. One, there is a big brother, little brother mentality that exists between the Warriors and the Kings that is to the Warriors' advantage. And I talked about playoff experience and how much it is significant in these kind of moments. Obviously, the Warriors have a ton of it. They've won 4 championships. They won a couple years ago. I also just think it's worth pointing out, despite the fact they're in that 10 spot, and despite the fact for that reason we see them as a lesser version of themselves, and I suppose they are, the West has been so good this year. I think it obscures how good a lot of these teams toward the bottom of the pack are, who are in the play-in or near the play-in. This Warriors team going back to the All-Star game, or going further back to the end of January when Draymond Green, after suspension, got reinserted to that starting lineup for the Warriors, are top 10 in offensive rating, top 10 in defensive rating, which is a key stat for the Warriors when they've won championships. I think they're 4th in net rating. So if Draymond can avoid the shenanigans, and you have a reasonable night from Steph Curry or better, and Clay's been better, yes, I think the Warriors are huge favorites against the Kings. Let me say this too. Sacramento missing Kevin Huerter, significant. Sacramento missing Malik Monk, a huge loss. I think their second most, maybe third most important player, but a big piece of what they did when they play well. I think every advantage points to Golden State in this game.
Yeah, a lot of injuries that they're dealing with there in Sacramento. And the Kings, Steph Curry, when he saw the Kings in Game 7, let's not forget, he dropped 50 in that matchup in 2023. Let's switch over to the East, and we have a huge matchup on deck here with the Heat and the 76ers. And it feels like the tale of two teams here, Bill, because we have the Heat, a team that maybe isn't necessarily flashy early on. We don't maybe pay attention as much in the regular season, and then come playoff time, or if they're in the play-in, nobody wants to play them. And then on the flip side, we have Philly when Joel Embiid is healthy. They look like a surefire championship team. And of course, we know Joel Embiid dealing with those injuries. But when you look at these two teams, who are you giving the slight edge here to?
This is hard because I think whoever wins, obviously whoever wins this game plays the New York Knicks in the 2-7 slot. And I think whoever wins that series makes the conference finals. I think the Knicks are good enough. I think the Sixers are good enough. And I think the Heat are good enough. So for this play-in, it's a really tough call because you're right. Playoff Jimmy's a real thing. Heat culture's a real thing. There are a lot of reasons the Miami Heat are just better and so dangerous when you get to the playoffs. All of that said, I'm going to go with the team on the screen there. I'm going to go with the Sixers because as you see, when Embiid plays, they're just astounding. And when he went down to injury before his return, because it's easy to forget, we're all captives of the moment. I certainly am. They were a top 4 team in almost every category that mattered. And for me, at least back then, after Boston and Denver, I thought they were easily the best team in the NBA. They have a huge hole they've got to get themselves out of because of the injury to Embiid and the fact they're in the play-in. Playing the Heat ain't easy. That is a coin flip of a game. But I think that they're a better basketball team. And so I'm going to take them over Miami, but that's going to be a great game and a close call. And again, both those teams, the Heat and the Sixers, the Knicks are so good, but are good enough to make a deep run. These are good basketball teams.
Bill, I'm getting some deja vu from last season when we were counting out the Heat. And I feel like Spo and Jimmy and Bam, they're going to hear this, and then they're going to go on another deep run like they did when they were the 8th seed last season. But if you are the Boston Celtics, the heavy favorites to win the East, you have been for months, who would you rather face? I mean, is there a right answer? Is it Miami or is it Philly? What do you think?
The answer is neither. Whoever wins the Bulls-Hawks game, the Celtics are going to be the biggest fans of that team on the face of the earth. But if I got to pick one, I mean, I'll go. Boy, they're both really good teams. I'll go the Heat. Although I think the Heat and the Sixers can both beat Boston. I wouldn't pick them over Boston, but I would probably be more inclined to think that is a close series than most people. But if I'm in the Celtics, I'm gonna prefer Miami, even though I don't want Miami, over the Sixers, and just presume the idea of Miami twice in a row losing the first play-in game, winning the second play-in game, and then going on a run isn't going to happen. And I do think that the Sixers are actually a championship caliber team, whereas the Heat are just remarkable in the playoffs. And so if you got to pick your poison, I'll take the less dangerous team that's still dangerous than the more dangerous team. But I'm telling you that the Celtics do not want to see either of those basketball teams. Other people may not care about that Bulls-Hawks game. Boston does, and they want to play the winner of that game.
Let's talk more about that matchup because, of course, the loser of Heat and the 76ers is going to play the winner of that 9-10, which is Bulls-Hawks. And it's a tough path for them regardless. But is there any hope, Bill, in your opinion, that the Bulls or the Hawks can maybe rattle off 2 wins here?
Yeah. Look, I will take whoever loses Philly Heat. I will take 1,000 times against the winner of Hawks. Bulls, we all will. But the reality is, the thing about the play-in, the way you want to avoid it is you do have teams that sometimes just get hot and will shoot 50% from the three-point line, for example, and just have one of those nights. Or conversely, you're a really good team and you don't shoot well on that night and you're out. So I like the Bulls if anybody is going to pull a miracle, because I think that's been just a tough out, and I think the Hawks have not played particularly well this year and have not been consistent. But on the flip side, like, you do have some shooters for that Hawks team, and it's true for Chicago too, who can get hot and who can hit some shots. I know that I saw Brad, and I know he doesn't care about the game, and nobody cares. Brad Botkin, nobody cares about the game. I'm there. These teams are not very good. They're not. But the reality is, whoever plays them between Miami and Philadelphia has got to be focused, because you don't want some statistical anomaly of a night to cost you what is the possibility of a deep playoff run.
So we have the play-in on tap Tuesday and Wednesday. And last season, Bill, we saw the Heat and the Lakers. Both were play-in teams and made a deep run. Miami, of course, making it all the way to the finals. If you have to look at all the teams this season, what play-in team has the best chance to get to the NBA Finals?
Oh, my God. I love this question, because I think there are at least 4 teams, maybe 5, that are good enough to do that. I think the Sixers and the Heat, the Warriors and the Lakers, and the Pelicans until lately have been really, really dangerous. Maybe their lack of experience. So there's a right answer here. It's hard. I'll go Warriors for a few reasons. One, I'll go back to just how they played going back to January, since Draymond Green became a starter again. That team over that stretch has a championship resume. I'm a huge believer in Steph Curry and what he can do. But the main reason is, and no disrespect, or maybe it is disrespect, it is what it is, to the Thunder, the Warriors will play the Thunder if they make the playoffs, right? They're in that 10 spot, so they got to win 2 road games. I think they can beat Oklahoma City. I think Oklahoma City's lack of playoff experience and their youth, and to a degree their lack of size, is not a great matchup for the Warriors if the Warriors make an actual playoff series, because all of a sudden it's extra gravy, it's house money, you've gotten there, you weren't supposed to. And I think the Warriors would have a chance to win that series, and all of a sudden you become, in effect, the 1 seed. So a lot of teams could do it, but if I got to pick one, I think it'd be the Warriors if they can get out of this play-in reality.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. Experience matters in the NBA playoffs. Bill Ryder joining us